HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Christmas at the Mysterious Bookshop, edited by Otto Penzler, read by Matt Godfrey and Christina Delaine. Introduction. Bookstores have been a place of worship and wonderment for me since I was a child, and little has changed in the ensuing decades. One of the enduring thrills of my fortunate life is when visitors to my own store have kind things to say about it. While it is a great source of emotional joy and pride, the Mysterious Bookshop offers little in the way of financial benefits. Just ask my valued but underpaid staff. Like most independent bookshops, it engages in a mighty struggle against the chain store behemoths, the 800-pound online gorilla, and the newest attacker of old-fashioned bookstores, electronic books. Nonetheless, if we don't quite flourish, we endure, and it is largely due to the friendship of our loyal customers and the generosity of the mystery writing community. As a way of thanking our customers for their support, I have commissioned an original story from some of the finest mystery writers in America each Christmas season for the past 17 years. These stories are then published in handsome booklets and given to my customers as a Christmas present. The only criteria for the authors to follow were that the stories should be set during the Christmas season, involve a mystery, and have at least some of the action take place at the Mysterious Bookshop. The resultant stories have ranged from humorous to suspenseful to heartwarming. They have been so loved that customers from whom we rarely hear, alas, make a point of ordering books during the holiday season just to be sure they get a copy of the latest booklet. They have become highly collectible, too. Single stories selling, we have heard, for more than the price of this entire collection. None of it would be possible without the warm friendship shown by the authors of these stories, of course. Trust me when I tell you they didn't do it for the money. Even if Christmas at the Mysterious Bookshop hits the bestseller list, it won't change the lives of the contributors. It may, on the other hand, influence the life of the bookshop. My entire share of royalties goes directly to the bookshop's bank account, which will thrill my creditors. It should be pointed out that the Mysterious Bookshop, which opened on Friday the 13th of April, 1979, was located at 129 West 56th Street for nearly 27 years. It was well known for its 2 stories connected by a spiral staircase, with my very elegant office at the back of the second floor. The store moved down to 58 Warren Street in Tribeca in October 2004, to a larger, more modern, if less cozy, space. It's also worth mentioning that, although I am a real person, the character with my name who appears in several of these stories is fictional. Have a very Merry Christmas. Otto Penzler, 2010. The Mysterious Bookshop, 58 Warren Street, New York, New York, 10007. www.mysteriousbookshop.com. Snowberries by Megan Abbott. It's 2 days before Christmas, and the Mystery Bookstore, with its frosted windows and glowing lights and general aura of warm promise inside, looks like the December page tugged from a Currier and Ives calendar. Me? My shoes are shined, so there's that. I may have shaved. The store sits on the ground floor of one of those buildings people talk about when they talk about old New York, which they do a lot these days. Red brick facade, sandstone cornices and sills, a wrought iron fire escape of solid heft, the fine architectural product of the firm John B. Snook and Sons. At least that's what the tiny brass plaque tells me. But I've always found Snook and Sons to do solid work. For 2 hours I've been shadow dancing on the street, dodging barrel-chested holiday shoppers ready to pick me off like a clay pigeon. Mostly, I've been waiting. I walk past the store itself many times. As the day grows colder, the sun slipping behind all that red brick, I decide to stop in some of the adjacent businesses. It turns out the rubber supply establishment is no browser's delight, but the picture window at the Lily of the Nile nail spa next door offers a nice view. I stand in front of it for a moment, as if to adjust my necktie in the window reflection. It's a picture, all right. All the glossy-headed ladies bent over the delicate hands of other glossy-headed ladies. Rows and rows of slender ankles crossing each other as they sit, fingers dipped in cut-glass bowls, the curves of their breasts as they lean on the chrome manicure trolleys, the low hum of whispered gossip and pleasantries, holiday parties and glittery fingertips. So far, the nail spa is definitely a highlight. When I push open the front door, the sound of a brass gong vibrates, and I feel uncannily like I've entered a creaky Charlie Chan movie. All their eyes, the blonded manicurists and manicures, lift to observe me. Suddenly, I'm glad I wore the charcoal pinstripes and got that shoe buff by City Hall. Out of all of them, only one gives me what can only fairly be described as the fisheye. The others, lit lovingly by amber candles and swollen slightly by complimentary glasses of holiday cider, almost smile, almost seem to invite me further in, waving those glittery fingertips. But it's probably just the holiday cider. Anyway, my hands will have to wait. It seems I'm working. No one at Lily of the Nile offers up anything other than the smell of paraffin, so, edging back toward the bookshop around 2 o'clock, this time I go inside. It's the kind of place you always see in old movies. Wooden bookcases that nearly curl around the store's cozy center, like cupped hands over a fire. A button-tufted leather sofa is flanked by a pair of padded-back chairs with gold saddle studs along the edges, and legs curved as gracefully as the manicured ladies next door. An old book smell that calls to mind pine tar and sweet almonds, even though it's probably horse glue. Walking over to the far-right bookcase, I put my hand on the smooth wood of a lower shelf, my fingers resting in a pair of tiny craters. Larger than even a Death Watch beetle could manage, but you never know. Trawling the rest of the store, I try to blend in, to look like the kind of guy who might come in for more purpose than to put his greasy thumbprints all over the slick spy novels on the front tables. The kind of guy who might actually take his time perusing the wispy rarities thrust high on the shelves, and who knows what he's looking for. Which mostly means I do a full circuit of the high shelves, squinting a lot, neck craned, a tug at my ear like I'm thinking very hard. Might this be the first British edition with the erratum on page? I almost convince myself. Walking around the far back corner, I'm doing some high shelf squinting when something tickles my tugged ear. The legs of an overhanging skeleton, like the kind you see at Halloween. Except Halloween was 2 months ago, and the skeleton is draped in a string of Christmas lights, the tiny white kind that don't blink, but just twinkle like far-off stars. It takes me a long time to untangle myself. I feel as sharp as a mudflat. A handsome young man with clever eyewear and a stack of Gil Brewer novels grins at me. "It's on account of mysteries," he says, nodding at the skeleton. "Get it?" "Yeah, kid. I get it." Back on the street again, struck out twice over. I'm feeling a little like Goldilocks, if Goldilocks were a middle-aged guy with a slight limp from an early morning collision with a subway turnstile. My luck may be changing, though, because it's after 3 o'clock, and the proverbial chair that's just right has finally opened its doors across the street. The Raccoon Lodge, the neon sign craned off the fire escape says, though the only sign of lodge seems to be the general smell of too many men living closely together for a long time. Still, I like a bar in the afternoon, the wood polished, the coasters in fine stacks like poker chips, the glow of the lights in the long mirror, the gleaming taps, and the beer, too, let's not forget that. So the Raccoon Lodge bar will do me just fine. Maybe even better than fine. A jowly man, seated in the far crook of the bar, dons a surprisingly perky Santa hat. Tilting his head, resting it on his palm, he is singing with great reverence the third chorus of The Holly and the Ivy. Not everyone knows the third chorus. Behind the bar, Beneath a stained glass lamp stands a small woman with tinted eyeglasses and a fringe of dark hair. Between two fingers she balances a fat paperback, the cover torn off and the pages nicely yellowed. She makes me feel like curling up at her feet and asking for a bedtime story. Or something. I'm not taking any chances this time. I have a feeling about this one. "Can you do me a favor?" I asked, offering my best grin, the one where I use all my teeth. "A very small favor, that's a promise. If I had her eyelashes, I'd be batting them." "I don't know," she said, her voice low and with a little tickle of a rasp in it. "Favors are funny things." "I promise this one's a real knee-slapper," I say, hoping for an undeserved smile, and not getting one. But something about the way she keeps letting her eyes drift up and down my face makes me a little optimistic. "The funniest part, though, is the head," she continues, looking back down at her book. The bar light's too dim for me to catch even the half-shorn title page. "The head?" I ask, resting my elbows on the bar. I can't say as when I've been more intrigued. "You put on a show. You lift your hand high for the poor, make a big flourish out of it so everyone will be pie-eyed and empty their pockets," she says, turning a page. "But what do you get when you do that? All collar, no shirt. A glass of creamy foam." "A tragedy," barks the man with the Santa cap, whom I never should have counted out. "That, my friend, would be no favor," she agrees, nodding at Santa. I realize I have been quietly rebuked. There is an order to these things, even at, or especially at, places like the Raccoon Lodge. "I know I asked for a favor," I say, slapping a $10 bill on the bar. "But first things first, a gallon of whatever you have on draft." I slide onto one of the metal bar stools, adding, "And one for St. Nick, too." She smiles, as if to herself, sets her book down and flicks one of the rusted taps, filling a slightly clouded pint glass and nudging it toward me, like the change for the fine on my overdue library books. I smile back. I like her. In her own way, she's friendly. I bet she's never even set foot in the Lily of the Nile nail spa. "Now, what were you saying? Something about a favor?" she asks. Taking a drink, I have to admit she can pull a fine head. Just a whisper of a head. "It's about that establishment across the street, the bookstore," I say. "You ever go in there?" She tilts her head. "Do I look like the type?" Now I have full permission to look her up and down. That fitted sweater of sapphire blue, darting nicely in all kinds of nice places. The eyeglasses, which, though small, form a vaguely forbidding lattice across what seems a very satisfactory face. I can't see the legs, but I have a strong, favorable impression just the same. I'd put her just this side of 40. But whichever side it is, it's the side I like. She's a delicate one, though, especially for the dingy setting. The spun glass type, I'd say, if I were the kind of guy to say spun glass. Or if this were the kind of place to say it, what with those stained glass lamps, the stained glass of which, now that I've adjusted to the dark interior of the bar, appear to be slowly peeling from their hot centers. "Well," I say, both of us turning to look out the front window toward the frost-laced bookstore across the street. "In an even match, I'd put you in there over this joint." Shrugging, she taps her fingers on the bar top. "I've grown up here," she says. "Known these swollen floors since I was knee-high to a grasshopper." "Guess I'm wrong again," I say. "So, was that the favor?" she asks. "Nearing the final bend," I say. "Sorry about all the head. I'm just wondering if you've ever seen the proprietor." "I don't know," she says. I believe her. Who couldn't believe her? All apple cheeks and inky fingers and away with a foam head. If it weren't for those memorable sweater darts, I'd want to adopt her. "Could you tell me what he looks like, the owner?" So this is the favor part, she says. Clearly a woman who counts her favors with the precision of a blackjack dealer. I nod. She leans forward, tapping her fingers to her chin. If it's the man I think it is, she says. Silver hair, silver beard. This time of year, gray herringbone coat, fly front. Looks custom-made. A voice kind of clubby. Crisp, but buoyant. Someone comfortable speaking in public. I'm guessing he's a native New Yorker who spent some formative years in the Midwest, let's say Michigan. And a one-time baseball player. Eyes wide, I say. By his gait? By the mitt he carries, she says. Right-handed, hand-stitched. I stare at her. She grins, dimples diamond sharp. I'm a little in love. Whenever the Wolverines win, she says, he whistles hail to the victors as he walks by. Taking my glass of beer, I silently toast her, Santa, and the stuffed animal suspended above the bar. I think it may be a wild boar. Something about the tusks alarms me. You'd make a good cop, I say. No thanks, she says, tilting her head back and gazing up to the porcine taxidermy above her head. I'll stick to the mounted kind. When was the last time you saw him? Maybe a week ago, she says, picking up a green swizzle stick and twirling it between her fingers. Is he in some kind of trouble? Let's just say he's an elusive one. Bespoke herringbone and all. Herring is a slippery fish, she says, the swizzle dancing impressively across her pretty white knuckles. In Europe, they call it the silver of the sea. Where I come from, we call it two-eyed steak. Realizing I'm starting to get hungry, I look around for a tin plate of pretzels, some Mr. Peanut, anything. You're mildly interesting, she says, for a Wednesday. And Christmas Eve to boot, I say, taking another sip of my beer. She touches her fingers to the cover of her book, as if to return to it. But the swizzle stick seems to interest her more. You must pull bottom rank to be working so close to the holiday, officer, she says, her voice slightly sharpening. Like those poor cops in Times Square on New Year's Eve. I'm an independent contractor, I say, suddenly feeling the heat coming from that peeling stained glass. Wishing we could go back to our sprightly routine from a few minutes back. Not a cop. She nods hesitantly as if she's not sure she believes me. Is it unusual not seeing him for a week? I ask, the last bloom of beer restoring my balance on the lurching stool. I don't keep such close tabs, she says, and there's a funny kind of pause. Turning back to Santa, she says, a little flutter in her voice. Hey, mister, how about here we come wassailing? Santa lifts his head with surprising buoyancy. We have got a little purse of stretching leather skin, he croons fairly mightily. Raccoon Lodge's own Falstaff. Lifting his glass, he takes a quick slug. We want a little of your money, he continues, winking, to line it well within. The comely bartender turns around and faces me again. I smile, a little differently now. So is that another hint? I say, leaning back, my voice a little tighter. You two working as a team? She flinches a little. No, she says, furling her brow. I'm just looking for a little holiday merriment. Suddenly, I feel very sorry, for a lot of reasons, beginning with that furrowed brow. About one more round, and this time you join us, I say, resting another bill on the bar. The smile comes back, but she only pulls a glass for me and for Santa, whose head now rests dreamily on the bar lip. No tipple? I ask, enjoying the first sip of that second beer to an almost heart-bursting degree. I'm not much for Christmas. It'd interfere with my hobbies, she saws, twirling 2 swizzle sticks now in fast succession. Let me guess, I say, nearly hypnotized by the dancing sticks. former majorette. She laughs, bell-like. If only I'd gone to college. I could have been a star. Oh, I say. I thought you were a Big Ten girl. Not me, she says, the swizzles slowing almost imperceptibly across her knuckles. That's Mr. Across the Street, remember? Or that was just my guess about him. Huh, I say, shrugging. She keeps twirling. Tugging my ear, I look at her and add, but you do know when the Wolverines win. You could only make the connection between his whistle and a win if you knew about the win. She looks at me. The win is just a guess, based on when he whistles. But you recognize the fight song, I say. She sends the swizzles into the air and spinning around. You bartend long enough, you know all the songs. Well, I say, nodding. Majorette is safer than linebacker, and requires better aim, she says. You said it, not me, I say, smiling. She smiles too, though she doesn't seem sure why. She doesn't yet have the sinking feeling I have. At least I don't think she does. But the specs help, I add. With the aim, right? She sets down the swizzle sticks and touches her fingers to her eyeglasses self-consciously. The gesture is so soft and girlish and shy. It's like she's forgotten them and I've reminded her. The truth is, I want her to take them off because in a different story, not this one, she would. She'd take them off and she'd let down her dark hair and I'd walk Santa to the back exit with an extra bill to make him happy, and when I returned she'd be pulling down the blinds with a slightly awkward, utterly charming curtsy. And I'd walk close, smelling the perfume I imagine she wears, as she dims the lights and... Well, but that's not the world we live in, not today at least. And I'm working. I am working. Dorothy Parker had it all wrong, I say. I love a woman in glasses. All the same, she takes them off. And I can see her eyes, so brightly gray as to be nearly silver, the lashes stuttering just slightly. I take a long drink of my beer. They've always given me trouble, my eyes, she says. I make this snowberry poultice for them. It's the only thing that helps. Snowberries? I thought that was just from fairy tales, like cloudberries, I say, as though I know anything about fairy tales. I think the only thing my old man ever read to me was the racing form. I don't know what a poultice is either, but I don't bother with that one. She laughs, and there's that bell again. No, snowberries are real. They're the white, waxy ones. My grandma used to take me out to pick them back home. She leans closer to me on the bar. And that warm feeling between us is coming back. It's pretty much charging back. Those eyes, silver, and that second beer, and everything. I don't even ask her where back home is, even though she said not 10 minutes ago she grew up right here. The berries, she says, just inches from me now, are so white. And they have a wee little nipple at the tip. I want to say something very badly, but wisely take another drink instead. When you break them open, she says, almost a whisper now, a whisper I can feel humming through me. They look like sparkling snow inside. And when you taste them, I ask, you would too. You don't want to taste them, she says, shaking her head and leaning back. The Indians call them corpse berries. They won't kill you, but they're dangerous. I'll bet, I say. Then, after a beat, but it might be worth it. It might, she says. And we look closely at each other. Something has happened. I feel like we both just put our hands onto the poker felt and spread them. She puts her glasses back on. If this were a murder mystery, she says, you'd be accusing me of poisoning someone. But we're not talking about poison, are we? I say. We're talking about a gun. No flinch this time. Resting back against the bar, she picks up one of her swizzle sticks again. "How did you know?" she asks. "It was a lucky shot," I say. "Luckier than yours. You missed him." "You mean he's not—" "No," I say. "He's left town. He's far from you, believe me. But there's a very angry pair of bullet holes studding his oak bookcases." She turns and looks out the front window again, as if she could see the bullet holes from here. I see her chin shaking just slightly, but that's the closest sign I see to anything resembling a reaction. I find myself wanting to tell her about death watch beetles, how they are like bullets in their own ways, that funny ticking you hear in old buildings on quiet summer nights, the loneliest sound. But I don't. "You came within inches of 30 years to life at Taconic Correctional Facility," I say. "What was your idea, anyway?" She pauses a second, her face clouding over. "You know the thing about herring?" she finally says, looking me straight in the eyes. "It's a bait fish." I don't say anything. "But," she says, "you're actually wearing pinstripes." Turns out, her aim is true. "I always heard it was a forager fish," I say quietly. "And yet you're not police," she says, resuming her majorette routine. "Or are you?" "No," I say. "He wanted to keep this quiet. He thought it might be you. He wanted to be sure." I see the silver of her eyes glistening faintly. "Well, there's that," she says. "But I guess now is when the law comes in." I catch my reflection in the rusted mirror behind her and quickly look away. "That's not up to me," I say. We both sit for a minute. "What was your idea, miss?" I say again, my voice a little ragged now. "I shouldn't have had the beers. I shouldn't have thought this would be easy green right before the holidays. Somehow everything's turned and I can't turn it back." "You wouldn't understand," she says. "It was a very long time ago. Long ago to him, not to me." When he told me about her, about the two of them, he'd said as much. He'd said it sadly, like it was his great regret. Not that he'd ended it, but that he hadn't seen how she'd never be able to let it go. "You didn't have to stay," I say. "There's plenty of places to go." "No, there's not," she says. "But can you imagine what it's been like? Seeing him go about his life, be so happy?" "Sure I can, I think, but don't say. Isn't that what all of us do? People like us, the ones always on this side of the glass, looking in the frosted windows, glowing with all the things happy people glow with." "I can't explain myself," she says, eyes finally lifting me. "It's a sick, blue life, and you can't know what you'll do, or why." "I think you can," I say. "You think that now," she says. "Just you wait." Give Till It Hurts by Donald E. Westlake. It was hard to run, Dortmunder was discovering, with your pockets full of bronze Roman coins. The long skirt flapping around his ankles didn't help either. "This hotel is either too damn big," he told himself, huffing and puffing and trying to keep his pants up under this bulky white dress, "or it's too small. Okay, the dress isn't really a dress, it's an abaya, but it gets in the way of running legs just as much as any dress in the world. How did Lawrence of Arabia do it in that movie that time? Probably trick photography. Also, the sheet on his head, called a keffiyeh, held on by this outsized cigar-band circlet called an akal, is fine and dandy if you're just walking around looking at things. But when you run, it keeps sliding over your eyes, particularly when you have to go around a corner and not run straight into the wall, like now." Dortmunder turned the corner, and here came a half dozen of his fellow conventioners, Arabian numismatists jabbering away at each other and kicking their skirts out ahead of them as they walked. How did they do that?
Sample complete. Ready to continue?